In this video, we're going to begin using VS Code and Claude Code to create something which is hopefully applicable to finance and which you might find useful. So we're going to begin by just creating a website. And one application that you might want to do in that is to create a personal website from your CV. So when you're applying for placements or for graduate roles, you have put together your CV, you want to demonstrate your ability in various ways, and having your own personal website demonstrates that you can hopefully use some of these tools and you are quite technical and can promote yourself and set yourself apart from other students. So as an example of what we're going to end up with, you can put together a personal website that might look something like this. So you have some information about what you're studying, about your grades so far, about maybe where you've done internships or placements, your A-level grades, anything else that you've been involved in, such as the Student Managed Fund. And hopefully this then is something that you might want to use in practice. So how do we go about this? First of all, we need to ensure that we have VS Code and Claude Code installed. Now, if you haven't already done that, go back to the first video in the series so that you can download VS Code, you can add the Claude Code extension, and then you register and connect up your Claude account. So once you have all of that done, we can then proceed from there. So the next thing we're going to do is then move on to actually accessing some prompts and some information that we can use to help us with this creation of a website. So go on to the AI for Finance section in Canvas and look under the 01 websites part of the module section. And you'll see two different files here. So these are just basic text files. So the first one is just a prompt, which is going to give some guidelines about how we would like to create the website, what's going to be involved, what types of graphics should we include. And then we have our second file, which is the content of the CV. So I have put together for a fictional student about what might be included in their CV. We'll use that to begin with, and then you can edit it for your own CV later. So download those files, just save them onto your PC and basically just put them into some folder which is specifically for this project. So the way the VS Code works, it operates on a full folder. So make sure that these two files are put together anywhere on your PC, but within one specific folder, just on their own. The next thing we need to do is in VS Code is just to open up that folder. So go into File and Open Folder and just find that folder where those files have been saved to. So work your way through that process, and hopefully once you have found the folder, it will show you those files in the left-hand side of the screen. So what we're then going to do is just to click on the first file. So this one, which is just called 01 prompt create website.txt. So this is just a simple text file which just contains some information, just explaining what is going to be involved in this process. And the good thing with VS Code is you can then see all of that information. So what I want you to do is just to spend a little bit of time looking through the prompt, because this will give you some really good insight into how to structure your requests in general. So the first thing we're going to do at the very top is we're going to provide this task. So we're going to specify to VS Code just exactly what we want from it. And we can keep it quite simple in that respect. So we say we want to create a professional, premium, stylish website based on the information which is in this other file, 02 CV content.txt. And it can be useful to have this system of having separate files and just referring between them so that you can keep track of things and you can make things simpler in terms of trying to maybe separate out the prompt from which content you want to focus on. Then we go through a quite detailed section about how we would like the website to be designed. So the first thing we're going to do is to specify what languages we want to use. And for websites, we use something called HTML. So this is basically the sort of simplest language which is used in terms of designing things for the internet. And then we have a process called Tailwind CSS. Now this is given standardized design approaches in terms of things like maybe different colors and fonts, various aspects look. And we put in a specific requirement here that we're going to access this through what's called a CDN script. And that then will be added onto our website without us having to install anything. And then JavaScript is another language which is used to create websites, which is a bit more versatile, allows it to be more responsive. Now, you don't really need to know all the details in terms of all those languages. All we're doing is providing this as our basis. And what you can do is, if you're confident, you can change that information, or you can just leave it as the default. And then it works through various aspects about what that might look like. So we're going to specify the theme in terms of colors and how it will look in terms of gradients. We'll provide things like concepts and background, cards and typography. So you can read through the full text there. Just to give you a sort of brief overview around the process that you would want to do for something similar. So you're going to ask Claude to do something. You're going to give it this task. You're going to refer to this other text file. You're going to provide technical details about what coding languages to use. So in this case, because it's a simple website, we'll use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. For more advanced things, which we'll come on to in future videos, we're going to change that. Again, you can ask the AI to give you advice on what coding languages would be best if you're not about that aspect. We'll provide some basic design guidelines, and the AI will then interpret that. And we also want, as part of the prompt, is just to tell Claude to do with it in terms of output. So we've asked it to save the file and then also provide an explanation about how we can take that from our own PC and upload it and make it available. And we're going to use a system called Netlify, which is where you can just publish websites very simply. Basically, this is our template. We're going to ask Claude Code to implement this. So again, if you've been through the first video around installation, the next steps in the process are very consistent with what we did in terms of setup. And you'll see this just right across all of the different videos. All we're going to do is click on this little orange splash icon just at the top of our screen. We're going to close down the extra chat window. So the one that says build with agent, that's one which is built in code, but we're not going to focus on that one. So just click X to close that down. And we are going to focus in on the Claude Code window itself. Now, as part of Claude Code, you have various options. Again, we talked through in terms of the video around setup. For this stage, we're going to suggest that you use the model Opus. So Opus is a very capable model. It is very advanced and should be able to deal with any of the tasks that we give it. There is an even more advanced model called Fable. It uses more tokens and it may not be available long-term within this subscription. So Opus is probably the best balance that we can find. You'll also see an option in terms of effort. So again, you have different options here. You can go to quite low effort to save usage, or you can go for maximum effort if you want the AI to think even more deeply. But for now, we'll go for an effort, which is high. And then on the right-hand side, you can choose how often Claude asks you to approve different tasks. So you can get it to approve pretty much everything. What we're going to do is use what's called auto mode. So auto mode basically lets Claude decide what to approve. So almost always it will just work its way through the system itself, and it doesn't need you to continuously approve things. So make sure that you have those settings on. There are other options which you can try out. There's another model called Sonnet, which uses even less tokens, a small version called Haiku, but Opus is probably the best in terms of our output. Okay, so once we've got the settings done, all we need to do is ask Claude Code very simply, is just to implement the prompt that we have designed and which you have downloaded via Canvas. So you can just reference it by its file name. So we're going to say we want to implement 01 prompt create website.txt. And Claude can look through the file system. It will pick out that particular file. It will read through all of the text that we have prepared, and it will implement that for us. Now, that might take several minutes. You'll see it working in the background. And what we end up with then is some output where Claude will tell you what it has done. So in this case, you can see it has created a single file, a premium website, and it has saved it to what's called index.html. So it confirms that it has done what we have asked for. So it's got a dark charcoal theme with slow moving blobs in the background. It's got what's called glass morphism, just to make it look very professional. Or things there you can go through in a bit more detail. Now, what we want to do is to just open up that file. The best thing to do is to go back into your Windows file system. So don't try and click on the index.html file through VS Code, because what that will do, it will just show you the underlying HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code. Now that might be useful for you, and you might want to make manual edits there. But what we want to do at this stage is just to open up the file in a browser just to see what it looks like. So go back into your Windows File Explorer, double click on the file that has just been created, index.html, and have a look at that. And that then should have created this website for you, which you can then see and hopefully looks quite professional. You can also then go back to VS Code and just read the instructions on how to publish the website. So currently it's just on your PC, so no one else can see it. But what we would like to do is to make it available online. How would you do that? You can use this system called Netlify. So it gives you some step-by-step guidelines there. You just go to the website, you just sign up with your email address, I just upload the file, and very simply then you can make that available. You can buy your own domain name. So for about maybe £10 per month, you can then register according maybe to your personal name, and someone then can find that, and you can put that on your CV to confirm that this is something that you have published is available. Okay, so that basically walks us through the process just about a simple creation that we have done through Claude Code here within VS Code. Now, that website that we built was just for a fictional student. Obviously, what we want to do is to make that a bit more relevant for you. So all you need to do is to go into the other file, which is called 02cvcontent.txt, and just update that with your own CV. So if you already have your CV prepared, just copy all of the information from it into this simple text file and just make sure that you save that. And then what I want you to do is to use Claude Code to say that you have updated the content and that you want to make the website for yourself. You can ask it to change anything about the design, so you can choose different colors, you can do different layouts. It's up to yourself, basically, how you specifically request that with Claude Code. And it's very useful to maybe try different options just to see how quickly and effectively it can manage that. So once you have done your own website on your CV, go ahead and try to publish that online via Netlify. And that then is something which you'll be able to put on your CV. You can add the link to confirm that you've done this, and that will be a quite useful signal to employers that you then have some skills in terms of creating different content. Will again help to set you apart from some other students. And then what I'd also like you to do is just to upload that file that you have created to Canvas. for your first assignment. So all you need to do is go back onto Canvas, look for the task around create websites, and just upload that. It's not going to be graded in terms of getting any marks for it, but this is going to be a really good way for you then to keep track of all of the tasks that you've done through the course. And what we can do then is to confirm that you've got this portfolio of skills in terms of using AI for finance. So that's our first process around just building out this website. What we're going to go on to in our next video is something fairly similar in terms of concept, but what we're going to do is create what's called a web app. So rather than just having a simple website which presents information, what we're going to do is we're going to create calculators and various systems whereby you can input different values, and the website will be responsive. It will do very advanced calculations for us. So we're going to focus on calculating options prices. So if you've already studied something around maybe futures and options or anything in that area, it will be showing you how to actually design calculators, which will be quite useful in that area. So things like maybe using the Black-Scholes model, setting up put call parities, and working out the Greeks, so things like deltas and gammas for options. We'll move on to the next video just to show you how to do that